I've not seen any other entity in Vedic astrology as destructive as Mars.
And we are in the year of Mars, 2025.
Absolutely. Rahu and Ketu, that way, they're these two entities that are pulling your life in two different directions. You will never realize who you are if you've not experienced Rahu. Ketu mukt karwata hai. Ketu will make sure you get rid of things wherever it's placed.
What's the difference between a sun sign and a moon sign?
In astrology, we say not that your parents were just right in the moment and they conceived you and you were born. No. The sun and the moon were in perfect alignment in the cosmos to give birth to you. If the sun is not placed right, no matter what Rajyoga you have, it will not fructify. Aries as an ascendant has the karmic theme of having to use their body. Either there are injuries on the body or there's physical labor. The thing with Libra people are their life is never in balance. If you're an Aquarius ascendant, you have a lot of karma. You get the superficial love, the superficial validation, but they never get the intensity that they really want. 2026, a lot of people in the next year will start asking very crucial questions about their own personality, their own place in the world.
Avoid doing this thing when this planet is in retrograde.
When Venus is retrograde, no buying expensive stuff, especially a car. You will end up returning it. You will be unhappy with what you've gotten.
So Mercury retrograde, there's a high chance that I'd fall prey to a scam.
If you're getting married during Jupiter retrograde, my first thing is don't.
When I filmed our episode with Medha, I didn't realize that we would have to break a conversation into two halves because she has so much knowledge to impart. If you haven't seen that part yet, I would suggest do that before you go any further. Let's dive in. Just so that we can tell our audience, can you just very briefly, even if you want to just give me one line, if you can just list the different ascendants down for me?
Absolutely. Okay. So we have 12 zodiac signs. That means you will have 12 ascendants in a horoscope.
Okay.
And all of us can be one of these 12 ascendants. There's no 13th ascendant.
Correct.
So the 12 zodiac signs are Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces.
Right.
Okay, there's no other zodiac sign, no matter what the news comes up with, what Western astrology says. The whole logic of this is that we have taken the sky, divided into 12 different sections.
Right.
And those sections, we've given it names, and which are these zodiac signs,
Right.
basically. When I see any of these in your ascendant, that means this becomes a theme of your life, right? So with Aries as a ascendant has the karmic theme of having to use their body. No matter what they're going to be doing, whether it's profession, whether it's relationship, you have to physically show up for things.
Right.
And there's karma with the body. Either there are injuries on the body that the body has to take, or there's physical labor. You know, whether you have someone picking up bricks and putting it on their heads and walking 10 kilometers or carrying water on their heads. There's a karma to this body. We
Right.
So sometimes we store karma in our partners, in our children. This is a person who stored karma in their body, right? Taurus, they have karma with understanding material possessions, right? How much value does this thing have? So their entire life journey is about understanding the value of things. That is this person valuable for me? Is this car that I'm buying valuable for me? Is this house? Is this child valuable? What is the value of these things? So they live their life trying to understand the value, because Taurus, we always feel is, oh, it's governed by Venus, so it's luxury. But what is Venus in Vedic astrology? It's a guru. We call it Shukracharya. He was the guru of the Asuras.
Right.
So a guru is not concerned about whether your car is 50 lakhs or 5 lakhs.
Right.
He's trying to understand and look into the value of things. So this is all common sense astrology. This is not advanced level stuff. Because
Right.
when you start understanding that Aries is the head and Taurus is the face, we're giving it body parts.
Right.
So you realize that the head is basically governing, your brain is governing the rest of the body, right? Face allows you to have value in the world. How do you recognize me,
Yeah.
Bhav? You don't recognize me from my shoulder. You
Yeah.
see my face
Yeah.
and you recognize me.
How do you show up?
How do I show up, right? And what is most valuable, right, that I need to show up for? So
Right.
that is Taurus. Gemini, of course, is communication. It governs your throat. So it's not just your small talk. That I would say the karma of a Gemini person's life is understanding the depth in communication, because the superficial communication you can get away with, and there's no growth and evolution in life. So Gemini people mistake that, it's just communication, negotiation. No, it's the whole point of communication when it comes to understand the depth in things. Cancer is karmically, this is for me one of the most painful ascendants, because I've seen that Cancer people, they invest a lot in life, okay, and they never get that much return in terms of the emotional intensity, because nothing in the zodiac belt shares that much intensity. The sort of love that they give out into the world, whether it's to their partners, their children, their profession, to get that much in return never happens. But the karma of Cancer person at the same time is to have a very public life, to have a very a profession that allows them to become more famous or popular in their circle. And that's the thing, you get the superficial love, the superficial validation, but they never get the intensity that they really want. Leo, the karma is expression. You have to be out there and express yourselves. Leo is governed by the sun. So there is that sense of pride. There is that sense of, I need to be on the throne. And that defeat in realizing that to express, you don't need to be on the throne. Sometimes you just need to be in the marketplace. Sometimes you need to be with people around and, step down from that throne and still express. There's a simpler expression. Virgo. The karma of Virgos are, of course, it's a very karmic sign, because Virgo becomes the original 6th house in a horoscope. 6th house is conflict. It's the everyday karma, everyday work. What is your duty in your everyday life? So the biggest duty that we all have in our everyday life is to be in service of the person next to me. Otherwise, I'm just self-serving, going ahead with this life, doing my own thing, and then, checking out from this universe. There's no point to it. So Virgo as a zodiac sign, the karma of the person becomes to be in service of some cause, some idea, someone, and only then the cycle of life is fulfilled for them. So that's why they're also people who we say are perfectionists, or they are always so particular about things. It's not that they're trying to find fault. It's not that. They want to correct the world. They want to be in service. They want to be useful. So you get a Virgo person to be useful, their job is done. They feel relevant.
Sorry, at this point, I want to remind the audience, we're not talking about a zodiac sign. We're talking about your ascendant here.
The starting point of your horoscope. The first house. And now we are on the halfway marker. So now from the first 6 signs, now we get into slightly deeper understanding of life. Now the understanding of, or the cover page of your book is now slightly more complex. It's not that simple, because now the soul, the cosmic soul in that sense is evolving, right? Let's say the cosmic soul is a baby in Aries. It's evolving, becoming a child, becoming a teenager. And by the time it reaches Pisces, it's an adult, an old person, right? So think of it in that sense. So we have gone through the childlike stage. Now we are right in the middle of this cosmic soul's life, which is Libra. So if you have a Libra ascendant, you have to come to terms with the fact that the symbolism of Libra is a weighing scale. And we're constantly thinking, I'm trying to get my life in balance. The thing with Libra people are, their life is never in balance. Right? And it's that acceptance that I can't get this and I can't get that. And if I want all of this, that's not how life works, right? You have to make peace with the ups and downs of life. And Libra people are constantly feeling torn over that thing that, I want my relationship also to be perfect, and I want my profession to also be nice, and I want my kids to also come first in class. Doesn't happen too much in life. So you kind of, when a Libra client comes to me, I tell them, you focus on what is really meant for you. And how we started this conversation, that offering, whether it's your offering to yourself or to the world, you have to narrow down on that. And that's when you find meaning. That's when life automatically comes into balance.
Right.
Then, because you stop trying so hard, right?
Right.
And Scorpio, The karma is ambition. They will always have a lot of ambition. They will always want a lot of things in their lives, chasing things. And the thing with Scorpios is don't chase, stay in your power, wait, patience. Life really tests them that, it creates situations where they have to be more and more patient. And Sagittarius has karma with higher learning, learning that if you were thinking a certain way earlier, you have to allow yourself the space to change. They should, that's a real mark of intelligence, because Sagittarius, the ninth house of higher learning in Vedic astrology. But what is that higher learning? The best kind of learning that a person can go through is to understand that if I change my thought process, if I have a certain belief system and I listen to a new point of view and it feels valid, and I allow myself to change and alter that opinion, that's higher intelligence.
Right.
Because I'm open to new ideas and new learnings, right? And that makes me a bigger person.
Yeah.
So that's Sagittarius karma. And then you have Capricorn. Capricorns will always have a very distinct first half and a very distinct second half. They are actually one of the best examples of rags to riches story. Their lives completely transform over a period of time, and they could be doing something very different, or sometimes coming from very humble backgrounds and coming into a life that is has nothing to do with where they started from.
Right.
Aquarius, I call them the Einsteins of the zodiac belt. They're not of this world in that sense. Yeah, their mind is elsewhere. They're trying to figure out a problem. They're trying to find a solution, and they are the ones that have karma with the public.
Right.
They have to give something back to the society. Otherwise, the karma doesn't get fulfilled. So you'll see these people in conferences, hosting, being part of large gatherings, finding healing through large gatherings, seeking the company of a lot of people and learning through them. That karma is with a lot of people. And that's why a lot of astrologers will say that if you're an Aquarius ascendant, you have a lot of karma. Because it's so easy to have karma with just my child, just my husband, wife, parent, one person.
Right.
Karma karke khatam kar do na ek
Imagine,
insan.
yeah,
Imagine so many people, heavy karma.
yeah,
Pisces, again, an ascendant not of this world. They're very governed by intuition. They're very governed by a channel that's outside of this world. So whenever I'm having very easy esoteric conversations with people, I know this person is Pisces.
Pisces.
I've also seen Pisces ascendant people doing something which is morally very far away, right? But the moral compass is intact. But उनको फर्क नहीं पड़ता है, even if they're doing something which is not so ethical right now in the moment, because उनका moral compass is not of this world and not of this realm. It's some other realm.
Right.
They're literally in a different galaxy, on a different planet. Their ideas are very like that.
Right.
And the beauty is that only their body is in this realm. Everything else is in a different realm.
Right.
And it's fascinating. It's fascinating because the potential to actually bring new things into this realm, to create new ideas and concepts comes very easy. But that's why they also feel like a misfit in the world around them. Because this world, we need to get married, have a house, have children, get a job. The vocabularies of these two things are very different. The vocabulary of the world and the Pisces ascendant. So they struggle. They struggle with trying to match themselves to the world here.
Right. Yeah. So these are the 12 ascendants. And thank you for sharing this with us, because it's very easy in today's world to find out what your ascendant is. And when you figure that out and then use this as a roadmap, you get to understand yourself so much better. Like, why am I drawn to a certain thing? Why don't I like something? What is driving me? It's so important, and thank you for sharing that. The second thing that you mentioned after the ascendant was the sun and the moon. Now, I know there's the sun sign and the moon sign. And sometimes when on Instagram, you see a lot of reels for certain signs when people are talking about them or making predictions. I want to ask them, 1 second, are you talking about the sun sign or the moon sign? I'm confused which one you're talking about. Will you quickly tell our audience what's the difference between a sun sign and a moon sign?
Right. Okay. So in Vedic astrology, we give a lot of importance to the moon sign. Unlike the Western astrology culture, I remember, 30, 40 years ago, we had Linda Goodman's talking about sun signs. There were books with, big bold font saying, what is your sun sign?
Right,
That sort
yeah.
of stuff. I know that we've all been influenced by that culture. So Vedic astrology looks at it very differently. Okay, sun sign is what I told you right at the beginning, that it's like the king of the kingdom. If sun gives an order, the rest of the planets will follow.
Right.
If the sun is not in alignment with something, you will not get that in life, no matter how much an astrologer says, oh, you have fame in your life, oh,
Yeah.
you have
Raj Yoga.
Raj Yoga and all. But if the sun is not placed right, no matter what Raj Yoga you have, it will not fructify. So this is something that we really have to be very careful of when we are trying to do that heart surgery on ourselves, right?
Yeah.
So the sun sign is going to tell you, firstly, what your lineage is, what your ancestry is. Why? Because sun is light. And what is Vedic astrology? We call it Jyotish.
Right.
So light of God. Jyot is light. Ish is Ishwar, light of God. And what is the light for us? It's the sun. Sun had not been there, none of this would have been there. We won't be playing this game, this Maya. You and I won't be sitting here living our lives, right? So sun will tell you what your ancestry is, what your lineage is, where are you coming from. The other thing that sun is that because you have a certain lineage, you have a certain view of yourself.
Correct.
Had I been born in a royal family, I have a certain view of myself. Had I been born in a family that has done a lot of physical labor, my view is that I know I wake up in the morning, I know I have to go and do some physical labor in order to, earn my living. So sun allows you to have that opinion about yourself, and that's why we say that it's your self-esteem, your confidence, all of that. Sun is also your father, the big patriarchal influence in your life. While sun is the masculine aspect of our being, and don't take me on the genders as such, but it is that the static aspect of our life, like how we say in Sanskrit, the Purush and the Prakriti.
Like right? Shiva, consciousness.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Moon, again, is ancestry, but moon is also memory. So memory from different lifetimes, past lives. Memory also of this lifetime. Oh, we had a fight, you hurt me, I was emotionally hurt, I've not still gotten over it, right?
Right.
So it also, in a way, in the modern vocabulary, it stores my traumas, it stores my, grudges, envy, ups and downs of emotions, all of that. Moon is then my mother, my gentler influence or my Shakti influence at the same time, right? The Prakriti influence of my life. What has shaped me to a huge extent. So my emotional response. You hit me, but what is my emotional response? Do I hit you back? Or do I feel hurt and do I go into all of that? Moon is storing it constantly. In Vedic astrology, we need the sun, we need the moon, because the DNA is a combination. You're not just born out of your mother and you're not just born out of your father. You're born out of that combination.
Right.
And that combination has to be just right. So in astrology, we say that not that your parents were just right in the moment and they conceived you and you were born. No. The sun and the moon were in perfect alignment in the cosmos to give birth to you. So sun will tell you where your power lies and also how will you burn karma, because it's your lineage baggage, right? The karma of your ancestors, you're here to fulfill that, right? But how will you fulfill it? You will fulfill it with a positive mindset, a pleasant mindset. You will have some sort of emotional responses to it. You will be in power, not be in power. All of that moon. So they go hand in hand.
Right.
I can't walk through life with just one being in power, the other not being in power. So you will see people who don't feel completely aligned are confused, are lost, don't know what to do. What's the next step? The moon and the sun are not in alignment, right? The moment that happens, maybe in some dasha, maybe in some phase, that's when rise happens.
Right. It's very important for our audience to know their sun sign and their moon sign. It's not one versus the other, because each sign will tell you different things about your own self.
Absolutely.
What I'm taking back from this is whenever a Vedic astrologer puts up a reel on Instagram talking about, this is what is going to happen for this sign. It's always easier to assume that they're talking about the moon sign.
I won't assume because depending on the astrologer.
Right.
So let's say I'm an astrologer who's more sun aligned, right? I make predictions through the sun.
Right.
It could be a Vedic astrologer, not a Western astrologer.
Mm.
Or it could be an astrologer who's more moon aligned. I feel, especially in the pop culture, you know, when you're putting these Instagram posts, you should mention.
This
right?
is for the Vedic astrologer. Please, any astrologist, tell us, are you talking about the moon sign prediction? Are you talking about the sun sign prediction? Make it easy for me, please.
Yeah, because
know?
also you're catering to the world at large.
Yeah.
Some people know what they're reading, some people don't know what they're
Yeah,
reading.
yeah.
There's so much scope for confusion.
This is my myth busting question.
Okay.
Last season, we spoke about Saturn and Shani. This season, I want to talk about Rahu and Ketu.
Right.
They are called the villains. They are the second and third villain after Saturn. Vicharas, they are given that they're the malefic planets. Do you agree with it, or what's your take on Rahu and Ketu being the two villains?
They're not very easy energies, I will say, you know, because I'm very clear about Saturn. Saturn's not so bad. It gives you a lot, right? Because of
Yeah.
the world that we're living in,
Yeah.
it's a very materialistic planet. So it'll give you materialistic abundance.
Right.
Rahu and Ketu that way, I would say, you know, they're these two entities that are pulling your life in two different directions. So literally your entire life is a dance between these two opposing energies. And because they're so intense, you're not ready for that sort of intensity. So the ups and downs and the fluctuations you have, it's almost like that heartbeat, the ECG that you see, you know, there's that line going straight up and going straight down.
Yeah.
And that looks good, right? You want a
Yeah.
heartbeat like that. You don't want it flat.
Yeah.
So in life also, that extremities may feel that they're very challenging, but you want that. You don't want a flat life. In fact, an astrologer only said this to me, you know, and we were chatting about astrology, and I'm lucky enough to be surrounded by such wonderful, wise people. He said that life में ये मुश्किलें हैं तो ही आप जीवन में हैं. नहीं होंगे तो आप होंगे नहीं इस जीवन में, आप तो निकल जाएंगे. You know?
Correct.
So it's these problems that root you into this Maya and this life.
Yeah.
Right? Had it not been there, you would have checked out. You would have said, okay, it's a flat line of the ECG, I'm gone.
Yeah.
Right? So they allow you to be in this world. Had Rahu and Ketu not been here, you would not be in this world. Forget about your Saturn, forget about anything else. In my opinion, the most negative influence in terms of a planet is definitely Mars. I know we are so distracted by Saturn, we are so distracted by Rahu and Ketu, but I have not seen any other entity in Vedic astrology as destructive as Mars.
And we are in the year of Mars,
Yes,
2025.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I would add to that Rahu in a way is seen as a shadow of Saturn. Ketu in a way is seen as a shadow of Mars.
Okay.
It's almost like Saturn has produced a child, that's Rahu, and he said, okay, go, create havoc, you know. Mars has produced a child, it's Ketu, and said, okay, go, ransack this auntie uncle's house, and you know, you've broken all the decor, and you know, it comes back feeling very proud.
Right.
It's a bit like that, both Rahu, Ketu energy. Rahu is a sense of passion, that offbeat thinking, and wherever it's placed, it's going to create those offbeat situations.
Right.
A lot of people define it as obsession, right? But obsession can be your moon placement also. You know, it doesn't only have to be a Rahu. You will see sometimes Rahu and Ketu are functioning very subtly. And then when you see things happening over a period of time, then you say, oh God, it was Rahu and Ketu playing, not my moon, not my sun. So Rahu can sometimes work very subtly or can work sometimes in a very obvious manner.
Right.
But it will be your things that you will gravitate towards. Ketu again is something that you gravitate towards, because Rahu and Ketu are not separate. They're same. They're, you know, the story that goes that it was that same demon who was cut into half by Vishnu, and Rahu was the head part and the body was Ketu.
Swarnabhanu.
Swarnabhanu, yes. And that energy is not separate then. So wherever Rahu is going, Ketu is going. Ketu is following. Wherever Ketu is going, Rahu is following. You will always see the essence of the other, never working in isolation. But the way they express themselves is very distinct. So Ketu will make sure you get rid of things wherever it's placed, right? So how we say Ketu mukt karvata hai. It'll just set you free from that thing. So sometimes Ketu is wonderful, because if you have an ailment, let's say you've had it for many years, Ketu transit will happen in a particular house and you will get rid of that ailment. Suddenly you will feel, oh, I'm completely okay. You know, people say, oh, I had this stone in my kidney. Ketu transit happens, the stone is magically gone. You don't have to do anything. You go for your X-ray or your MRI or whatever, and you're fine. You're perfect. The doctor says, okay, what happened? Magically something happened.
Yeah.
You could have done whatever you've been
Correct,
doing.
correct.
But
you did it at that time.
The transit, that's the magic
Yeah.
of it. So both Rahu and Ketu are very spiritualizing factors, but they spiritualize in a very different vocabulary.
Right.
Ketu is very harsh, Mars energy, right? It'll cut things.
Right.
So if it has to cut a person out of your life to make you more spiritual, it'll do that.
Right.
Whereas Rahu, if it has to make you drink 10 glasses of beer to next morning, it'll make you realize that, oh God, this was a bad idea.
Yeah.
It's that overdoing it and then you realize and
Right.
you still go on that spiritual path. Ketu is just ruthlessly cutting things out, doing the same thing. By the
Right.
end of the day, it's the same stuff that both are doing.
I'm thinking of it as this is the one good thing that Ketu does for you. What is the one good thing that Rahu does for you? Let's give him a good rep. What's the one good thing?
Rahu is amazing because it'll make you reach your potential. You will never realize who you are if you've not experienced Rahu, right? Think of AI. AI will not happen. Any inventor, any creator, anybody who's bringing anything new into this world. You have put me in a box, which is what the world does, right? Everybody has to be homogeneous in that sense. Everybody has to look alike. We all are getting fed the same content. We're all eating at the same cafe, the same burgers, same fashion. Everything is the same. Rahu allows you to step out of that box. It gives you that opportunity, whether in life, in your brain, as ideas, as a writer, you think of a new concept. As a filmmaker, you create a new movie. Anybody who's doing anything slightly offbeat, in a slightly different vocabulary, that's Rahu. And thank God for that. Otherwise, no evolution will happen. We'd still be living,
in the caves.
Yeah, in the caves, right? Nothing would have changed.
Yeah.
Rahu allows that change and thank God for it, everybody you see who's spiritually inclined, they have gone through their Rahu Dasha and they have come to a point that they are at. Tell me, Bhav.
No, I'm laughing because I'm going through my Rahu Dasha right now.
Absolutely.
Thank God for Rahu.
Yeah,
When you're saying that.
Rahu saves us in that sense, It makes us who we are. I would never be the person I am, right? And not just in the spiritual sense. Let's say it's an exam. I'm passing my exams. I'm getting a job. That everything that's happening, it's that Maya, right? Rahu is Maya. It's the illusion. Where am I living? It is this Maya around me, the lights, the beauty, the gold, whatever I'm wearing. It is Maya.
Yeah.
People are seeing us through a lens, right? A screen, technology. It's Maya. What they're witnessing right now across the screen, it's Maya.
So last year, we were told that 2025 is the year of Mars. So to mitigate that, what most people can do is start working out. Get into physical activity so that aggression is channeled there,
That's right.
2026, what is that the year of, and what can we do to mitigate that in some way?
Right.
Or get the best out of the year?
Yeah. So 2026, how we calculate it is we add up the numbers, right? So it's 6 and it's 2 and 2, which is 4. We add it out to 1. So this is a year that's governed by sun energy. 1 is sun. When we say that this year is having that sun energy, it's again a very blanket statement and it'll work very differently for people at an individual level.
Right.
So numerologically, depending on what your numerological number is, you will align accordingly, right? A year governed by sun becomes a very important year to place yourself and your own identity. A lot of people in the next year will start asking very crucial questions about their own personality, their own place in the world, right? And there'll be a lot of influence and pressure that they will feel and impact they'll feel on discipline, on consistency, because Mars will allow you to go out there and present yourself. It's that energy force, right? And it'll also be a year of Ketu. So 9, that number is the year of Ketu as well.
Right.
So it cuts things out and you will let go of a lot of things in 2025. So while we are saying it's just Mars, it's not just Mars energy.
Right.
It's very Ketu energy as well.
Right.
So you're letting go of a lot of stuff. When you let go of a lot of stuff, what's following is that whole existential questioning. Right? It's not a crisis, but it's a questioning. That who am I in the giant scheme of things? there'll also be a lot of seeking of what's coming through my lineage. Sun is lineage, right?
Right.
That what am I getting from my
Hmm.
ancestors? Now, here at a collective level, it's not just my ancestry or
Right.
your ancestry of us as humans.
Right.
Where are we coming from? Now, sun is a powerful influence and force on everyone because it will make you question things. Like even at an individual level, no matter what your what your individual number is,
Right.
right? It will be that thing that will make you want to be someone like sun. You would want to aspire to be better than what you've been so far, right? I want to be like the sun. I want to wake up to the sun, right? And have that same power and light. I want to be that into the world. People will start seeking that, but in a very authentic manner.
Right.
Because I'm not Venus.
Right.
Now, I'm not in the year of Venus where I want to be, posturing something,
Right.
or Mercury because I want to present something out. Sun, it's authentic. It's very clear. Right? It's the king. I'm not going to fake that I've gone for a war, or
Right.
I'm not going to fake that I have a lot of money in my treasury. I am what I am. I'm a
Right.
good ruler. So it will really question our moral alignment. It'll question who we really are, and that's
Right.
going to be a powerful year, not
Wow.
an ordinary
I'm
one.
actually in a way looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's an
So
interesting-
before we end,
Yeah.
I'm going to play a rapid fire round.
Oh my God.
Okay. And this is quite interesting
Yeah.
because we talk about retrogrades. Yeah.
Right.
And I'm going to name a planet.
Yeah.
And you tell me one thing to not do when that planet is retrograde.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, good
Avoid
one.
doing this thing when this planet is in retrograde.
All right. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So the first planet,
Okay.
what to not do
Right.
when Venus is retrograde.
Right. I would say when Venus is retrograde, one should not get into any kind of learning. Okay. So no learning because Venus is the guru. We think it's all about love and,
Yeah.
all of that. So no learning, no buying expensive stuff, especially a car, because that'll bring in issues. Venus is vehicles.
Okay.
Okay. So no car, no expensive things. You will end up returning it. You will be unhappy with what you've gotten. Learning also will not be completed.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And the obvious, don't get married and don't.
No,
Get into a
not for Venus.
relationship.
No, not for Venus.
Oh,
So
not for-
that's the thing with
I-
Vedic astrology.
Oh.
So we have this Western idea that Venus is love,
Oh.
right? Venus is relationship. No, Venus is devotion in Vedic astrology. So are you devoted to your partner? No, if I was 5,000 years ago, I was Ram and Sita, devoted. Yes, I understand. Today's time and age, nobody's devoted to each
Yeah.
other. The vocabulary has changed. The lay of the land has completely changed in our practical lives.
Oh.
So when we're talking about Venus retrograde, what plays out in the world, not what's written in the book, what's written in a shloka, doesn't matter. How it plays out in your life. Venus retrograde, you will buy expensive things, you will be attracted towards it, right? Venus activates for you. Your
Right.
Venus is very materialistic in this world
Right.
because you are a person of this realm now,
Right.
right? You're not spiritual, you're not doing your sadhana, you don't do any meditation. You go to a mall, you look at fancy things, you say, I want to buy that, right? That's your Venus. That's all of us. Okay. So we are responding to that. We're responding to the Kalyug Venus.
Right.
Love and marriage, we'll talk about it as you ask more
Okay.
questions. I'll tell you.
The second one is Mercury retrograde.
Mercury. So I would say no signing papers because your ability to find faults with things, to find the mistakes in things, you kind of lose that,
Right.
right? Mercury is so clever, right? It prides itself in being clever, in being witty, in just thinking on its toes, right? The witty factor of it. You say something, I say something in
Right.
return, right? It loses that power. It starts overthinking. So my response mechanism becomes slower. So if I'm supposed to read something in small print, I will miss that because I've slowed down. I'm still thinking I'm working at the same pace. So I'm reading the papers very quickly, right? But my planet Mercury that's giving me that practical analysis, intelligence,
The
it's slower. Buddhi brushed ho gayi is that moment with Mercury retrograde. Don't sign anything, I would say. Don't sign checks. You'll sign it in the wrong person's name. Don't do those UPI payments that we do very quickly. Don't do them very quickly because turns out you'll transfer it to somebody else's account. If you're signing a deal, doesn't matter if it's a house, a business, finance, don't do any deals during Mercury retrograde. It's also a short period.
Right.
So you can avoid. You can say, give me 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I'll see you after that,
Right.
and do it.
So because you spoke about the UPI payments, does that also mean that would be the time that there's a high chance that I'd fall prey to a scam.
Absolutely will.
So Mercury retrograde, just stay very, very cautious.
Yeah.
Mars retrograde.
Right, Mars retrograde, you get into unnecessary arguments. You will meet a person who will have a different opinion and you will get so fired up that your energy will go into that argument. Whereas, let's say I was going to do some work, but I met you and we started talking about something and you disagreed with me. That's where a fight starts.
Right.
The work that I was here to do is now all forgotten about, right? So, unnecessary fights, conflict, and waste of energy. Why waste of energy? Because Mars is our Dehakarka. It's our body, the planet that governs our body. So instead of using my body to do the right thing, it puts me into things that waste my body energy.
Right.
So don't get into unnecessary conflict. If you have to just sit at home and do nothing, please do that for the while Mars is retrograde.
Right. And Saturn retrograde, what not to do during Saturn retrograde?
Saturn retrograde, I tell people, don't look for validation during this period. It's that Gita line, karm karo, phal ki ichha mat karo, right? And the second line of that shloka is that phal to mere haath mein hai. Krishna says ki phal mere haath mein hai. So I decide what needs to be given to you, right? What happens in Saturn retrograde is people are looking for validation constantly. I've submitted a report, I've submitted a project. My boss will say, oh, wow, well done. Okay, or something like that. I'll get a raise. Don't look for validation. If you get it, you will not be able to hold on to it. It'll go back some issue or the other. You will most likely not get it only in the first place, right? So put your head down, just do the work. Because Saturn retrograde is the time for doing your job, doing your duty. You need to fulfill your karma. That's it. The satisfaction will come after
that.
Yeah.
And the last one that I have chalked out is Jupiter retrograde.
That's your relationship.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because see, Jupiter is that big daddy, right? It's the one source that blesses you. If I don't have the blessing of Jupiter, I can't get married, I can't have a child, I can't have a house, because you need that ancestral blessing. You need that higher blessing. We say, get your blessings from the Guruji. Right? Why do we say that? Because if you don't have his blessings, कुछ नहीं मिलेगा life.
Correct.
So, शायद आपका Mercury आपकी शादी करवा रहा है, Venus आपकी शादी करवा रहा है, Mars शादी करवा रहा है. Doesn't matter what planet is promising marriage in your chart. If you don't have the blessings, you will not get married. So that's why we say never insult a guru, never insult an elder, right? So Jupiter's blessings are very important. So if you're getting married during Jupiter retrograde, my first thing is don't. Avoid it. Avoid it for 6 months. Whether your Jupiter is retrograde in your horoscope or not, the cosmic alignment has to be such that you receive the blessings. So whatever it is that you're doing, maybe applying for a college, of course these things are more time, so you can't help it, but everything that you can change the timeline for, I would say don't get married in Jupiter retrograde. If you're starting a business, avoid, because you want blessings. You want that extra cosmic support for things to work out, right? You're not that person who's saying, oh, it doesn't matter who's supporting me or not, I'm just going ahead and doing it. You don't want that in your life. So Jupiter, blessings for relationships, for marriage, for love, for long-term commitments, right? If it's just an affair and you're just confessing your feelings to someone, I won't worry so much about Jupiter retrograde.
So that would also mean don't buy a new house.
Yeah, absolutely.
In Jupiter retrograde?
Yeah, even in Mars retrograde, I say don't do anything related to the land. But home is a blessing. Right? My palace. Right? Whether it's small or big, it's your palace. You are the king of the home that you live in, right? So, absolutely.
You know, what I've realized through our conversation is that I am suddenly realizing that I'm so drawn to learning astrology. Like really. And I never thought of it before this, but while we were having this conversation, I'm like, oh my God, like I really want to learn astrology. And
I have a beginner's course on astrology.
You have your next student already ready with the check signed. I don't know if we are in that retrograde.
No. But nothing is retrograde. Actually, maybe that's why we are having such a wonderful conversation, because nothing is retrograde right now. It's a free-flowing conversation. Maybe the planets are allowing us to have that ease of conversation as well, to talk about them.
Thank God. Thank you.
Thank you for the Jupiter's blessings for this.
But thank you so much, Medha, for coming on to Soul Safar with Bhav. I have truly enjoyed this conversation. And I mean it really, not just how people say, oh, it was so nice to speak to you. No, I've truly enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming. You came down all the way to Bombay for this conversation.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you so much. It's been lovely, and I look forward to many more conversations with you.
Likewise, Bhav. It's just been so beautiful and so amazing to meet you and to talk to you about all of this, because I know we're both on our own journeys, in
Yeah.
the giant chaos of this universe.
Yeah.
But it's been so enlightening for me also to learn so many things from you and the questions that you've asked. Thank you.
Thank you.
I've also had my moments of, learning so much.
My
Thank you.
pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Bhav.
To be honest, I never knew I was this interested in astrology. But that's the beauty of Soul Safar with Bhav. The more I explored, the more I'm reeled in. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel, because now healing has a face.